Hello and welcome to the LibDem podcast. This is our third instalment from the general election kind of debrief. We've talked about what happened, what the next step should be, but clearly a big thing for the Lib Dems is who or our next leader is going to be and what kind of traits we want from that leader and what the leader needs to do going forward. Before I get into all of that, of course, I'm joined by, I was going to say Sir Richard Kemp. I keep on wanting to call you Sir. I know. Yeah. It's just a matter of time.
There's a letter.
Yeah, that's right. Richard Kemp here, who is the leader of the Liverpool Liberal Democrats.
CBE.
And you can follow him on Twitter at Councillor Kemp. You can follow myself, John Potter. I am the leader of the Preston Lib Dems, and you can follow me at John Potter LD on Twitter, Instagram, and everything. You can follow everything to do with the Lib Dem Pod and at Lib Dem Pod. Please throw us your questions, any queries, anything at all. If you want to phone in and be a part of this podcast, we now have the equipment to do that. So anyone who's interested, thinks they've got a story to tell, by all means, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Right, Richard. You have already done a blog post saying about Ed Davey and you think he should be the next leader. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, well, I do that for a number of reasons. One is, as you know, I supported him in the last leadership election. But I think that the next 3 or 4 months can be very important for our party when you look at, I think, the shit that's going to hit the fan, certainly in the Labour Party. I want a leader of the party who's strongly rooted in the party, who's accustomed to working the national stage, and he's now our only former cabinet minister left, and he was a cabinet minister.
Carmichael was the Secretary of State for Scotland.
Oh, so he was, yeah. So I take that back. But I don't think Alistair would be putting himself.
I tell you the truth, I really like Alistair, and I think if he put himself forward, I'd be very tempted to support him.
He's a David Penhaligon figure for those who've been around a long time.
And he, I don't think he wants it. I think, and basically he's done such a good job at keeping the Lib Dem Whiskey Club going.
Absolutely.
And actually, which has kept us going right the way through coalition, basically.
You speak for yourself. I'm a gin man myself. Okay. So campaign ability, presentability. He did have a very good election.
He did.
When he was going around the CBI, Federation of Small Businesses type meetings, came over very well. A seasoned campaigner. He won his seat in the way that you and I have recommended. He got councillors elected, though I don't think he was a councillor himself, and built his party up. He's now got, most important of all in the short term, a huge majority.
Yeah, thank God you said majority.
Yeah. This is pre-Christmas, folks. Don't let the children watch it, it'll get worse. So I just think that we need to get on with this because I still don't see people who can be the leader this time apart from him. I can see the people who could be the leader in 5 years' time, but I just don't see people with that gravitas and experience now that a leader needs.
The way I approach this, I haven't decided one way or another generally because I voted for Joe, and I thought Ed had a very good leadership campaign as well, to the point where
you were wavering a bit.
At one point he was so good in some of the hustings that I was generally thought I was definitely Joe, and then I thought, and then in the end I went with Joe anyway. But he did really, really well. Now the question there's two things that come to mind straight away is, and you do hear it from people, him being a former coalition minister, does that baggage still hang around his neck?
I think that the further and further we get away from the coalition, that becomes more and more irrelevant. But also, I think there are so many horrors in store that austerity will look like a teddy bear's picnic.
Fair. But you can understand...
Oh, I can understand that's a question to be asked.
That's a question to be asked. And actually, one of the things I think about, and I'm trying to work this out from the terms of what the Tories did, and they had William Hague, they had Ian Duncan Smith, and it was all... And then what they then stumbled upon was Michael Howard, that kind of settling figure that got the Tories from speaking to
Well, I
themselves.
wouldn't have described him like that, but
Well, no, but you know what I mean. He was not.
narcoleptic, I would have thought.
Yeah, but Michael Howard steadied the ship for the
Yeah.
Tories. That enabled then Cameron to come in.
Yeah.
Now, is that the sort of role you think?
And Kinnock.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah, exactly.
it happened exactly the same way. Michael Foot, Looney,
Yeah.
two elections in which they stabilised. I don't think that I can foresee a leader after Ed at the moment with a parliamentary party that is so new, because even some of the existing ones, Vera and Layla, I think are very good.
Only 2
Have only
years.
been there 2.5 years.
Now, does that matter? Does that matter? Is continuity in terms of what Ed would bring more important than a breath of fresh air or sort of a new dynamism to the party?
Look, at the end of the day, we go back in one of our earlier podcasts in this little group of 3. I was talking about the fact that this becomes a presidential election.
Yeah.
People, when they want to be a president, want to elect a president, are looking for competence, experience, stability, and at the moment, Ed's the only one that's got it.
But are we fighting the election on what we think right now, or should we think about where we're going to be fighting the election in 5 years? Where will even the brand new ones, say a Daisy Cooper who's been getting a few headlines, where will they be in 5 years' time?
Well, in 5 years' time, they might be ready to be the leader if Ed Davey stands down.
Yeah.
But I can't begin to forecast what the election result will be next time.
But this is obviously, this leader we are thinking about is going to be, if you think of most leaders, even if Ed becomes leader and he has a very good election but thinks, no, that's probably me done, you think this is a leader for the next 7 years, because you don't just, again, I'm going to keep referencing to Michael Howard, but he was leader, but he needed to leave enough time for Cameron then to pick up the mantle and take it forward.
Yeah.
So 7 years is a really long time. So wouldn't it be better to, if someone, Lib Dem now thinking, look, we need a breath of fresh air, I'm not sure about Ed Davey for whatever reason, to go with their heart and say, actually, I'm going to go with a Christine Jardine or something like that, and think actually she's got 5 years to prove herself, and then the next election as well.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that my heart and my head are going in the same place at the moment. I have tremendous respect for Vera Hobhouse and Layla Moran. They have been our star performers in some ways on the media. They actually outperformed Joe Swinson in a number of ways, I regret to say.
I think Layla's going to be the big challenger. I don't know either way, but it looks like it would probably be a Layla versus Davey battle, would be my kind of, if I had to put my 2 pence on where it would go.
I wouldn't even guarantee that there'll be a battle, but
you reckon? All right, okay, fair enough.
Who knows? If I was to look at who might be there in 7 years' time, based on what's there now, and of course things change, I think we would have a superb choice between 3 women: Layla, Vera, and Daisy.
Okay.
Who by that time will have her feet under the table.
And don't forget Wendy Chamberlain, who's just been elected for North East Fife as well.
I don't know her in the same
I don't know
way.
her either, but I'm saying one of the things I'm very cautious of right now, this is my personal view, is I don't want to rule out anybody.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
actually, Wendy Chamberlain, I do not know a thing about her apart from she's apparently an absolutely brilliant campaigner.
Well, to come back after losing by 2 and have that resilience.
Exactly.
She ain't no chicken, is she?
No, and so I generally have a level of respect for most people that put themselves forward for the Lib Dem membership, because we don't generally have idiots within our party, particularly not idiots getting to the top of our party.
We've managed.
We're doing all right. So it will be very interesting to see where the Lib Dems go with this. What do you think there will be? Do you think there even will be a contest? You just kind of mused it there, or do you think we will keep an interim leader going forward, or do you think Ed will want? No, I am the leader.
Well, I think the party will decide, not Ed.
Of course.
I think that fairly quickly there needs to be a meeting of the federal board, which I'm sure there will, which incidentally has a strong campaigner now as its president in Mark Pack. I think it's important that they should put the option of a new leader to the party.
Yeah. Ready for spring conference in March? Or?
I don't understand the timetables, but soon. We don't want it dragging on if there is going to be an election. I just have a horrible feeling that an election now would be a distraction. You will not be able to choose between the two of them on policy or principle, because we're very united. Do we really want to have an election now based on personality? Perhaps we do, but I don't. I want to get on with the job. It's actually our smallest set of local elections coming up this time, except for these quirks of police commissioners, which we should scrap. Which we should scrap. So I partly so in terms of councillors, this is our smallest set of local elections, but I just think they can be very important, and I don't want to be distracted in the way we were. I thought it was disgraceful that there was an element of distraction during the general election campaign for the presidential election. Now, as it happens, less than a quarter of our membership voted, which didn't surprise me, because I think most of us said, I did vote, by the way. I've got more important things to do.
But it's a different level of responsibility being the party president and the party leader.
No, I was just saying,
But what in my head, because I am obviously we do have elections this May coming, is that maybe holding off till the summer might be a sensible way of doing it.
But an interim leader isn't a leader. An interim anything is never anything. What's he doing? Is his job to reform the party? Is his job to reform the parliamentary party? Is his job to set out new policy lines? Which of those? Well, he ain't going to do anything.
And I suppose also, Brexit is going to happen by the end of January. Do we really want then 5 months where we don't have a front and centre?
Well, phase one of Brexit is going to happen by the end of January. But I think that also that there is a job for us, because we haven't really discussed policies apart from saying that our policies were good. I think during the general election we suffered in a way from having one and too many. So what I would like to see is a leader laying out the ground on 4 issues, 5, 3, I'm not going to be fussy about it, on which we are coming up with things that are absolutely unique. Now, I know as parliamentarians they have to deal with the Treaty Utrecht or goodness knows what else, but what do people care about? They care about our NHS, they care about our educational system, they care about employment, and they care about climate change. Those were the 4 big issues that were reflected back to me, apart from fox hunting, which I think is just a very good set of campaigns. So I think that the leader and the leadership and people like you and I in our council chambers have to get to the position where everyone knows that the Lib Dems are really, really good at the health service, etc.
It is interesting, because again, from a marketing point of view, it's kind of an awkward thing, because you think of the success of Nigel Farage, and whatever you think of him, obviously, and I have lots of things I like to think of him, but he had one goal, and he just stuck with it. And he ultimately changed the Tory party into becoming
his party,
UKIP. Now, what our leader has to do going forward is going to be is a very difficult one to also sell, in terms of what's our position on Europe going forward. Obviously, we want to try and get as good a deal as possible, because Remain's dead. It's over. That argument's gone. So what is the? And I was listening to the Remainiacs podcast, where they were saying, if you suddenly go straight away to we want to go back in. That's our campaign. Rejoin. It might actually do more damage than actually having a slightly more moderated tone and saying, actually, okay, we want to go for the deal. A bit like we were saying, progressing in terms of your argument locally, progressing that argument towards closer relationships with Europe, and then hopefully in the future we get to rejoin. But that's a very difficult. We're going to have to think what we're going to do, because there'll be a lot of people that will be hurt by Brexit, that will never vote Tory, will be disappointed with how Labour did. They might come over to the Lib Dems, but we've got to get our position right.
Yeah. I think it would be ludicrous for us now to say that the day after we leave, we're going to apply
Campaign
again.
to join.
Yeah. But I am not just a Remainer, I'm an internationalist.
Yeah.
So my response to that is to say that we will have a foreign policy which will embrace Europe as a major way forward. At a local level, for example, I'm saying that the Liverpool City region should have an embassy in Brussels.
Okay.
But I also think we should have one in Delhi.
Yeah.
So if we are concerned about one element, a vital element, I admit, of foreign policy, let's come up with proposals which will minimise the harm that they will do. And who would actually argue, a Remainer or a Brexiteer, saying shouldn't we be maintaining strong connections with our biggest market?
Some Brexiteers would say no.
Well, some, but forget them. You know, the lunatics. But I'm talking about the people who are amenable to an intelligent discussion. There are many Leavers who are. Shouldn't we be doing things like having embassies in Brussels? So I think we've got to enunciate a very clear, rational, alternative foreign policy. Because what we haven't got from certainly the Labour or Tory parties is a rational foreign policy.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to reclaim the empire.
But
I don't think so.
But it'll be one of those things is foreign policy never, I mean, this goes for British and American politics. Foreign policy tends not to be massive on the domestic kind of agenda.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But why would I want an embassy in Brussels? It's not for the diplomatic reasons.
No, but I'm saying it's not a vote winner. It's not
no, but if you said that we are really worried about our car industries on Merseyside, who are going to be affected by legislation, if we say our universities are losing out on research grants, which are meaning less jobs. So I this goes back to the complaint about why we just said revoke Article 50. It's far more nuanced than that. So yes, don't talk to people about embassies in Brussels for the sake of it. What we want to do with this foreign policy, this embassy, whatever it is we want to do this, this and this, because I can show you that's important for the UK and Liverpool.
And I suppose in kind of wrapping up this whole kind of debrief that we've had, what the interesting part will be for our leader is how he or she compares to Boris Johnson and whoever Labour chooses as well. And the dynamics of the Lib Dems is also altered by what happens with those two parties. We're not isolated without them. If Labour suddenly have a far left Rebecca Long Bailey kind of character and a Boris Johnson, again, we will be seen as a moderating force, and whether we can get a passionate, moderate argument is difficult to sell. Yeah. And that leader's got to be able to do that. Whereas if Labour tax slightly more centrist, and Boris Johnson, in order to appease the new working class constituencies that he has to maybe tack a little bit more central in his economic policy, then the leader's got to find a space within that shrinking sphere.
Well, the leadership has to, because so one of the things, if I was to say, who are the 11 people you'd like in Parliament? No, that's slightly wrong, because there are lots of people I don't see in Parliament. But if I was to ask the question, what do you think of the 11 MPs you've got? I'd say, what a bloody good team we've got. I see real promise. So I want to see the leader creating 11 star performers. I mean, one of the mistakes we made after 2015, the NHS is clearly a key issue for lots of voters, and we didn't have an NHS spokesperson in the House of in the House of Commons for a large part of it, because in 2017, not 2015, when Norman Lamb got the Select Committee chair's position, we then moved to a situation where our our health spokesperson was in the House of Lords. So that's why choosing 4 or 5 grounds. So in Layla Moran, we have an absolutely superb education spokesperson.
She's done really well.
She's done really well. The unions like her.
Not weirdly enough, I don't know why. Again, this is something that just come. My dad doesn't like her, and my dad's kind of was a kind of left-leaning sort of guy. But for some reason, he doesn't like Layla Moran, and he can't put his finger on. He thinks she might have a similar problem that Joe Swinson had in presentation-wise. Yeah. If it does come to an election between her and Ed, I think she might win. If I had to put my monies on it as well, if you had to bet your house, I think the swell of not having a leader that was part of coalition, the fact she's had a good 2 years. Puts her in quite a strong place with the membership, but we'll see. We can't decide.
We've only got a vote each.
Yes, that's right. And on that, I have to call it a day because I have to go pick up the wife.
And where are you going? Old Trafford Centre shopping.
I think so.
The lies he's told his wife to be allowed out night after night during the election.
I think anyone knows,
the chickens are coming home to roost.
Anyone who knows what the kind of cattle market I'm about to go into, I think we should put the hashtag pray for Potter or something like that at the bottom of this.
Who gives a damn?
Yeah, but thank you so much, Richard, for doing this. So
it's a pleasure.
So we've thoroughly debriefed what we think is the general election, and again we're going to say this again and again to LibDem members and supporters: keep going. Keep going. Yeah. Whatever happens with the leadership, even if it's the person you want and the person you don't want, whatever happens...
Won't affect me, won't affect you.
Whatever happens with Brexit or the Labour Party, we are in control of our own fate and what we do locally. So get out there, get campaigning, start representing your area and make wins, little victories. That's the way
and get the satisfaction from doing things every day. You think, my area's a little bit better than that. 2 people now think they know a bit more about Liberal Democrats and liberal democracy. You build it up. It can be, if you chose to do it, make it a really big, terrible task. Or you could say, I'm going to make this fun. So do all the serious stuff. Make sure you go out for a pint with your mates sometimes. Don't just have fundraising events, just have times when you can meet and have this sort of chatter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'd come and do some chatting for people, if you like.
Yeah, no problem.
As long as it's within 2 miles of Liverpool, I'm more than happy.
Because everything else is the outer limits.
That's right. We'll come and talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy. We've even made inquiries. I know you have, and I certainly have, about whether we could do a live thing at the spring conference. Actually get the audience in and have a good old debate about stuff. So we'll let you know if that happens. So
Can I be Jeremy Paxman?
No.
Oh.
But anyway, on that, we will thank you so much. Do have an amazing Christmas and New Year. Thank you so much, Richard, for this year. I think, do we call this end of season 1? I don't know if we have seasons, but we'll call it end of season 1. We have thoroughly enjoyed doing this podcast.
I'm not going to get my reindeer out. Should we join hands and do all
No, we shouldn't. What you can do, though, is that you can follow Richard on Twitter at Councillor Kemp, and he has Facebook pages as well. You can follow myself at John Potter LD on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole lot. And obviously, LibDem Pod at LibDem Pod is all there on social media as well. Do let us know. Oh, I was going to ask us questions. Sorry, we're going to do quick 5 questions, Richard. Okay, very, very quick. This is a new one. Now, we had people come in, and I promised I'd read them out. Okay, social media, did it matter in the election?
It was useful.
It was useful, but really important. Labour had more traction, more engagement, more views miles more than the Tories, and it meant nothing in the end to it. So while Twitter and everything else, we all use it, it's good as an added bonus. Remember your keys to campaigning. Get door knock and do your leaflets.
Yeah. Get wet. People like you delivering when it's pouring down.
The question about the revoke policy, we've talked about that, and also about where that policy came from and how it does. Go back to, again, one of our previous podcasts where Richard gives his insights on how policies are made within the Lib Dems, and if there was a problem with the revoke policy and how it was implemented, that will be all part of the party review.
It wasn't so much a policy, it was a marketing bid.
Okay, there you go. Did Jo spend too much time doing interviews and touring? Did it cost her seat? That's kind of the leader's role.
Absolutely.
To do it. We have to rely on the leaders' team back in their constituencies to defend their seat.
Jo had a good campaign. She did what a leader should do. She was out pulling her troops out, giving them a morale boost and getting the regional press.
Do we think there'll be roles for some of the defected MPs like Luciana Berger, Chuka, Sarah Wollaston? I hope so.
Please.
I think those three in particular were extremely good when they came across.
Brilliant.
And the efforts they put in, particularly to get so close in some of those seats, where we are not going to just lie back and let them go. Again, those Lib Dems and theirs will keep fighting.
I'm sure they'll stay with us. I hope they will. There's a real task for them in building up our party.
Non-aggression pacts.
And no one else will have them now.
Non-aggression pacts with Labour and electoral reform. I am slightly jaded in the fact that I don't think if Labour gets a sniff of power, I don't think they'll reform first past the post.
They won't do it now, most of them.
No, I think.
But there might be a difference between an electoral pact with Labour and working with Labour on some of the key issues locally and nationally, and I think we should do that.
And I think there was an interesting tweet from Angela Rayner today where she talked about Labour's rightful place in government. That's the issue. They believe they have a rightful place in government where no party should have that. Yeah. And last but least, should we keep as many PPCs as possible? Yeah, I mean, candidates like myself or anyone else who...
Not me.
No, is that it? You don't. But I mean,
I'm 92. You can't go on to.
Yes, yeah, we're going to go re-energise him in the crypt. But I mean, some of the PPCs will have been disappointed. Some of them will be first time. Some of them will have come from other parties. It's up to local parties to look after those people. Some people might be really disappointed. Some people, like I'm just thinking like the South Cambridgeshire, Ian Solemn, who stood down for Heidi Allen, came back, had a really good result, but didn't quite get there. Protecting and looking after people like Ian to make sure they don't just call it a day.
Look, we all need a group hug.
Yeah.
That's the point about having coffee sessions together or going to the pub sometimes. Yeah. We're still a relatively small team. Yeah. The more as a family we look after other members of the family, the better. Now, you've already said we're finishing this twice. Shall I do it this time?
No, you can do, yeah. So we're definitely finishing this time. I've already done most of the stuff, so you can just sign us off. Say goodbye.
So it's really good to join us. It's goodbye from him. He's useless, but on behalf of John and I, have a really good Christmas and New Year. We're going to let you have at least 3 days off at Christmas, but let's see you back on the 2nd of January with your focus, with your leaflet, with your door knocking. Because at the end of the day, that's what liberalism is all about. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.